Youth sports can be really hard, especially if you're wanting to raise your kid in ways that produce healthy adults when they're done playing. Each week on Healthy Sports Parents, we have conversations designed to help you keep your athlete mentally and emotionally healthy. Whether you're just starting out in rec ball or you're traveling every weekend to elite tournaments, we're here to help you strengthen your relationship with your kids through sports. If we haven't met, my name is Jonathan Carone, and I'm the host of the show. Today, we are joined by Brett Carroll. Brett played 7 seasons, I think it is, in the major leagues for 3 different teams before making the majors. He played in college, so he has literally played at every single level of baseball there is. Since he retired, he opened a baseball academy in Knoxville, Tennessee, where he coaches and trains kids as young as like 6 or 7, all the way to they have a post-grad team for kids who weren't ready to be recruited out of high school but need one more year before they can go off and play at the JUCO or college level. Brett has an incredible perspective of developing the entire athlete and not just focusing on what they can do on the field, which is one of the reasons I wanted to talk to him today. If you like the show today, we invite you to go ahead and rate the show wherever you get podcasts. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, leaving a small review will be a gigantic help for us. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you like it. That does all the things with the algorithm so that we can get the show out to as many parents as possible. But for now, let's go ahead and welcome in Brett Carroll. Hey, Brett, thanks for joining the show. We appreciate you being here.
Hey, happy to be here. Thanks for having me on, Jonathan.
Hey, before we get started into Brett the coach, Brett the player, all the different roles you have had, we want to meet Dad. Can you tell us a little bit about your kids, what they play, if anything, and what it's like to be dad to them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd love to get their response too. Like, how's Dad? You know, depending on the week, I don't know. I mean, it just depends. No, I am a girl dad. I've got 2 daughters, one that's 10 and one that's 8. It's been a really sweet gift because I think every dad, and I would have loved the son too, just was not in the plans, but I've kind of always joked that I've inherited a facility full of boys of all ages. So, my daughters, they're pink and purple. I mean, they're similar in some ways, and then they're completely different in some ways. And so we let them just kind of dabble in whatever when they were younger. I mean, they're still young, but they did a little bit of gymnastics. They've done a little cheer. My youngest loves cheering. She's got a voice for it. I mean, she is high-pitched, passionate about cheering. And so my oldest, though, has just now started into some basketball. And so there's some interest there, it seems like. She did a little bit of rec last year, and then now she made her school team. In fact, I told my wife this the other day, she'll say, "Hey, Dad, let's go out and shoot." And I'll go out and shoot. Love it. And then when she's ready to stop, I stop. But the other day, I was out kind of the mowing in the yard and stuff, and like on 2 different times, she came out to the driveway and was shooting on her own. And I thought, as a dad, I'm like, "Oh, let's go." I mean, whether she wants to do it or not is not going to have any bearing on me, but it definitely does show a little bit of going, oh, she's wanting to do a little more practice on her own. And so that's the secret sauce, in my opinion. So, I love them. They are full go. I mean, so that's currently what they're doing right now.
So you just hit on something we've talked about in a few of our interviews, and it's one that I think is really interesting to get perspectives on. Mm-hmm. Your daughter, you said she's 8, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just started playing basketball. You're super competitive because you have to be to get to the levels you got to.
Sure.
How do you balance your competitiveness, your desire to get better that is in you, with you've got a daughter who just started playing?
Yeah.
And you don't want to burn her out, but hey, the genes are there at least a little bit because she's got you in her.
Yeah.
And so how do you balance pushing her versus letting her just learn to love the game?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a battle. I have come from I'm a recovering performance junkie, right? I mean, like where you're used to high achieve, you want to high achieve, and there's nothing wrong with that. But Yeah, I don't know. I think when I first started having kids, realizing, okay, this is a gift I've been able to chance to have for however long I have. That I know that they've been uniquely made differently. They're going to be wired the way they're wired. They're going to definitely have some of us and my mom, my wife in them. Um, so, yeah, I mean, my preference would be that they would engage in the things that I would like for them to engage in. Sure. But I've just realized, like I mentioned earlier, I mean, my oldest, when she's kind of went, hey, Dad, let's go shoot. Like, I'm gonna love that time. And then my youngest, though, she'll come out and be like, shoot one. She's that's not what I want to do. So it's just like I know, regardless, you can just tell there's just not a interest right now. So I think just that's a. I mean, I'll tell you this. This is funny. So with what I do now for a living, I just try to consistently encourage families and parents not to coach from the stands, because as hard as it is, and as much as maybe what you're saying is good and helpful, the timing of it makes it hard to do a whatever sport, whatever level, to perform in that moment, and then also hear a bunch of different things going on. Is the brain can't completely process all that, especially at such a young age. So to my point, I'm watching her play basketball, and I'm in the stands, and I remember there's a ball inbounds play right in front of me, and I looked at her, and I'm like, B, come on, go get after it. I'm like, play some Steve, and it wasn't like, come on, you got to do this. It was like, hey, come on, let's go get after it, because she plays a little sticky defense, and she goes out there for this she goes, I can't hear you, and starts to roll. Parents around me were laughing, so it's like, okay, I've got to practice what I preach here, So, but yeah, I don't know. I think I feel like I'm okay with either way. Like I want them to be who God's made them to be and enjoy the things they've enjoyed, and whatever they do decide to do, hey, we're going to give full effort, and we're gonna do it the right way. Like this isn't gonna, if you commit to something, you're gonna follow through with it until the end of that season, and you're gonna give your effort. That's the thing I drop off practice. Said, all right, hey, whatever, have fun and give your best effort, and listen to your coach. I mean, those are three little things I feel like are important.
I've always tried to be, I don't want to be the dad on the sideline, but I also coach.
Yeah.
So I am my son's coach. I don't coach my daughter. So there are
Yeah.
games so my daughter's I asked her before, do you want me to say things from the sideline? No, please don't, Dad.
Yeah.
And so, okay, I can encourage her. Hey, you're doing a good job, but she doesn't want me to do anything. But there have been games where my son and I had a game before, and then we rushed to her game, and I'm still in coach mode.
Sure.
So I've been on the sidelines trying to tell 8 and 9-year-olds what to do, and then she's on the field, and I'm like, she's giving me the look a couple times, like, "Hey, you're not supposed to yell at me."
Yeah.
Like, it's like, so I've had to get in the car and be like, "Hey, Liv, sorry.
Yeah.
That first half, I was still in coach mode. I didn't mean to. Like, I apologize." And she gets it.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not being mean about it, but it's like, "Hey, dude, like, watch it. Like, watch that girl. Watch that girl. Watch your space." Like, just because when I coach, I'm not joysticking. I'm always coaching effort and trying to get the kids to like, hey, where are you supposed to be right now? That type of stuff. But even my daughter doesn't like that.
Yeah.
Like, she just wants me to say good job and cheer her on, which I'm totally good to do most of the time. And I'm okay with that request.
Yeah.
It's just, it's hard to turn it off sometimes, which I'm sure
absolutely.
you feel as well.
Oh, 100%. I think we're human. I think, again, if you've got some coaching DNA or you're wanting to help, you're wanting to, I mean, we do know we are years ahead of them, so we can see we've been down the road in life a little bit.
The game's a little slower to us than it is them.
100%. But I think it does teach us a lot. Like it does teach us that their first thing they want to see us as is mom and dad, as a secure place, a safe place. And so I think kudos to you for when you realize, I'm still kind of in coach mode, that you can even humble yourself to go to her and go, hey, that's my fault. I apologize. Like, because I just think I tell our parents here, like, one of the most powerful things you can say, I've said this before, I don't know where I've even heard it, but it's very true, is that regardless of how the circumstances went of the game, regardless how it played out, whether they were the hero or the GOAT, I mean, I love watching you play.
Mm-hmm.
Those are powerful words, because it's like, And that's not based strictly on performance of how they did or the result they got that pleases us, right? It's just going, hey, I love that you gave effort. I love that you worked through whatever. I'm sure there's bound to be some sort of disappointment or failure.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those are key things at this age, especially. Now, when they get older and they can process the game more and process failure more and not take it personal, as they say that I'm a failure, but I just failed at something hard. Like,
Right.
man, to get in the arena of any sports or anything that opens yourself up for evaluation, rejection, that alone is a win, right? I mean, like that alone, because it's easy to sit on the sidelines. I mean, it's easy to not get involved. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's great. I think just the dialogue of asking, hey, do you want me to coach you? Hey, do you know what I mean? Hey, how do you want us to go about this in a way that our relationship is so still strong and not based on you feel like mom and dad are pleased with you or upset with you depending on how you perform in that game? Because at the end of the day, we're not playing. It has no bearing on me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So,
but it can bring up insecurities, right? It can make me feel like, oh, if she's the star. And so I don't know if that's because by the grace of God, I got to play at all levels, experience it all. But I don't know. I don't think it is, because I think it's still easy, because I mean, I still want them to be the best they can be and do whatever they want to do and be successful at it. But I don't know. It's kind of a, or maybe also too, I've kind of seen it. I'm involved in kind of the sometimes toxicity of youth sports that can really affect kids. And so maybe I'm just tuned in a little more on that. I don't know.
So it's funny. We've gotten to the point, my son has asked me to stop doing this because I did it so much. But before both of my kids play, I will ask them, hey, is there anything you can do today to make me more or less proud of you?
Yeah.
No. Is there anything you can do today to make me love you more or less? No.
Yeah.
What do I want you to do today? Do my best, be a good teammate, and have fun.
Yeah.
Okay, go out, and then they go play.
Yeah.
And then after the game, it's like, did you give your best? Yeah. And if they didn't, there's been games where my daughter's checked out because something happened. She won't be able, we're getting to the point where we can joke, no, I didn't really give my best today. Like,
yeah.
I could have tried a little harder. Okay, were you a good teammate? Yeah, I was a good teammate today. Did you have fun? Yeah, it was fun. And then it's like, okay, that's all I want. I was like, if you want me to tell you some things you can get better, let me know, and I'll tell you those things. But I want you to know, first and foremost, I love watching you play today.
Yeah.
And I was happy to see you out there with your friends.
I think that's great. I mean, I don't think we need to overcomplicate it more than that, because
no,
it
also gives them a chance to lead.
Yeah.
If they want to get better, they're going to come to me. They have permission to come to me and say, what could I have done different?
Yeah.
Or what did you see today? And if they don't, which at 8 and 9 years old, I don't care if they want to get better right now. I just want them playing with their friends and learning to enjoy being active and competing.
Absolutely.
We'll worry about getting better as we get older.
Yeah.
But if they don't first love the game, they're not going to care about getting better.
No, that's kind of goes back to when I said, I heard my oldest out there shooting basketball kind of on her own. And again, so I went inside to my wife, I was like, oh, Bailey's out there shooting by herself. Like, that's pretty cool. Now I'm not going to go up to her and be like, holy cow, this is something like, now it's like my entrance to go, all right, here we go. 5 days a week. We're going to do this. But she's just kind of being like, now we're going to be honest. Like, hey, you had tryouts. Like, there's no shortcuts. Like, if this is something you enjoy, that you're going to start to practice a little more and play. I mean, that's what we did. I mean, gosh, I grew up in the 80s, right? I mean, I was at 1982. Like, everyone played outside. I mean, that's what you did all day. So I know things have changed now, but just to get out and play, and especially if they're on their own shooting hoops, like, or whatever sport there is, that's a great thing, because it's like you just said, they're kind of leading out on that. I think there's time to push and but there's all time and place in that, especially age and what all that is. But unfortunately, it's just became a little more intense so soon and so early in their life.
And I think that's the thing I want to get out of this show, is that, like, we have listeners from all the way from rec league to kids trying to get scholarships.
Sure.
So it's like the journey changes as your kid gets older.
Mm-hmm.
And so the interesting thing about you, and one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, is not just because you played in the majors, but you now have a baseball facility where you're training kids all the way from young, like a friend of mine's kid is like 7 or 8, started coming to your clinic for like when he first started playing baseball and wanted to get into it. So like you start that young all the way to, you have a post grad team for 19-year-olds. And so you see the whole gamut of parenting as you go through. But one of the things you have been intentional about is making sure players, and by nature their parents as well, understand that baseball is not all their kid is, or softball or whatever is not all their kid is. Why is it so important for you and for us in general to keep in mind that our kids are more than just the athlete playing their sport?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, because I think no matter your age, no matter your season of life, there's always going to come a point where you're asking, who am I? What's my identity? And I think if we condition our kids to think that their only value and dignity and self-worth comes from a sport or how well they achieve in the classroom or whatever they may be, none of those are wrong things. But I think how they interact with, not to get too deep, but like when you talk about attachment, I mean, if they only think right, wrong, or indifferent, we as parents, I mean, gosh, I'm consistently apologizing to my kids, but like if we as parents then make them feel like our love or predicated or support or acceptance is based on how well they do or don't do, then it's going to create a little bit of going, oh man, I got to perform and I got to do, and that's, they're not made fully understand at that age, but that's how they're kind of interpreting it. Right. And again, to give our parenting some grace, right? Like we may not even be realizing we're doing that, but just to have some moments, conversations where, like you just said, I mean, I've said that to my girls, like, hey, I love you. And they're like, because I'm me. I'm like, yeah, because you're you. Like, you didn't bring anything into this world that makes me love you any more or less. And whether you achieve anything or not, it's not going to, I mean, it's no different. Right. So, I think it's a good thing to have conversations about, because, as they start to grow older and they start to, now their brain starts to develop even more, their environment, their experiences, then their identity is not wrapped in what they do, or who they are.
Well, I think you hit on something a second ago that I don't think, unless you've taken the time to think about it, it's not something you would naturally think about.
Sure.
And that is, we are not intentionally setting our kids up to make them think that we love them more or less based on their performance.
Right.
But because their brains are still developing, and they don't see the world the same way and know the same things we do as parents, they interpret our actions to them differently than we often intend.
Yeah.
So if we are not intentional about making sure they know we love them regardless of if they hit a home run or score a goal or miss a free throw or whatever the situation might be, then their little adolescent brains are going to fill in those gaps.
Yep.
If we don't fill it in for them. And we know naturally the way our brains are wired, we typically fill those in negatively.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
so
absolutely.
We have to be intentional, and I hate using that word over too much, but there has to be a plan on our part to say, hey, are we telling them enough that their performance is not what makes us love them?
Yeah.
Because if we're not, the way our brains work, it's a weird thing. It takes 10 positive things to outweigh one negative thing.
Yeah.
So if we're only telling them, hey, you messed up, but we only I told them twice that I love them no matter what, that doesn't matter. We have to be overwhelmingly reassuring to them for them to actually get it, because that's just the way our brains are wired, which is weird.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Well, do you think, I mean, to go get ice cream or go get something, even on a game that didn't go well, balances that out, right? Like, hey, we're just going to go, right? You gave your effort, you play whatever your family, maybe your maxims are as a family when entering these sports or whatever. But I mean, if you're watching Monday Night Football last night, they told a story about Josh Allen, and the moment that Josh Allen realized he wanted to play in the NFL, he was playing catch. He actually grew up a San Francisco fan. was playing catch with his dad. His dad rifled one to him, and he caught it, and like he even felt like he like bruised his arms, but he caught it in the parking lot tailgating before a game. And there's a crowd of people around. They started applauding and cheering for him, and he goes, "That's what I want to do the rest of my life. I want to play football." Now, granted, that's an awesome story, but you can see the power in, whoa, people reacted that I did something I did. And so, again, to cultivate a healthy going, hey, this is just something you do. It's not who you are. Go do it to the fullest of your ability. There can create a ton of opportunities and doors open, but let's home base is this. Let's stay here,
Yep.
and that way now everything can start to build off that in a healthy way. In my opinion, and not just my opinion, studies and research show that, and then also doing this for a living, just kind of different stories and relationships you develop that happen. So,
Well, it's interesting that I've noticed as a youth coach, 'cause I mean, I've coached, my kids are at the U10 level, or my son is U10 level for soccer. So I've coached U8 and U10 at this point. Recreation, not competitive. So, I mean, I'm putting that out there on the front end. It's the lowest of low levels. But what I have noticed is when I take the pressure of the scoreboard off of my kids that I'm coaching, they play better. I had a team 2 seasons ago. We had a bunch of kids who moved up a season early from U8 because they had performed really well the year before. They wanted more of a challenge. And a couple kids who had never played before, and like 2 older kids. So it was a big adjustment period for half the season. We tied a couple. We lost a few. We hadn't won yet. So we're going into the last couple games, and I tell them over and over, like, it's not about winning for me. It's about, like, play hard, play smart, play together. That whole thing is what I'm stressing.
which in turn develops winning habits.
Winning at, like, let's do the things to earn the right to win, and all of
right.
that. Yes, we can't control the scoreboard all the time, all of that. So I just remember going into one of the games, our kids were kind of down. I was like, guys, I do not care what the scoreboard says at the end of this game. The way I'm going to judge if we win today is if we play hard, we play smart, we play together. And I told them that. They went out and played their best game. I think we may have lost by 1, but when we got over to the bench, that team's like, did you guys play hard? Yeah. You guys passed the best you have all season. I'm super proud of that.
Yeah.
You played together. You did the smart things. They had a couple kids who were bigger than us that we just weren't as fast as.
Right.
And that's going to happen at this age. And so the next game we actually ended up winning because they built the confidence in the idea that it's not just about what the scoreboard says at that young age. Because if we're honest, before puberty, the team with the kids that are more developed are just going to win in basketball, football, and soccer most of the time. And in the baseball, the kid who can throw harder is going to win. It's just because he developed earlier. Like, so before puberty, if we're putting our stock in who is winning, go find the team with the biggest kids. That team's going to win.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in baseball here, I consistently tell parents and help them understand, hey, there's going to be kind of a cultural narrative that you feel like you got to do this, and this, and this at this pace and this pace and this pace. But all of this really none of this ultimately matters before they start to grow into their man bodies, because puberty is going to start to introduce all kinds of things. And as they get older into middle school and high school, there's different distractions now. I mean, so it really to enjoy it as a parent all the way up until, enjoy it the whole time, but really you can't get those time back when you have with that, the way I think it was initially created to do, because sports does teach you. I mean, what better you can learn how selfish you are, how you got to work as a team, how you got to care about others, how you got to, play from your heart. Like all these things, all that stuff is a beautiful thing, and which sports provides for the development of people, which is crucial. So, I can tell you this, like I never even played a game of catch with my dad. And so I'm kind of an interesting story on that, because, it shows you that even if you don't have some of that, it still comes from within, and the drive to, and then yes, outside circumstances, mentioned like the Josh Allen thing earlier, where you kind of read the room and go, man, this is something I enjoy doing or what I want to do. But yeah, that was so you don't have to. I don't know if there's a exact formula to it all, if that makes sense, to be how
Yep.
far someone's going to continue playing or what that's going to happen. So,
But regardless of how far our kids play, eventually they're going to play their last game.
absolutely.
Yours was in your 20s at the pro level.
Mm-hmm.
My daughters might be in 5th grade next year. She
Yeah.
might be done playing.
Yeah.
Like it's any span in there. But whenever that comes, we still have ideally another 30 or 40 years to be their parent after that.
Yep.
And so how we parent them through their youth ages and their playing time now is going to impact our relationship once they are done playing.
Absolutely.
And I think when we put it in that perspective, it makes us realize that having a 10-year-old that's the absolute best because we push them really hard isn't nearly as important as it's not nearly as important as cultivating a relationship so that when they're 17, when they're 23, when they're 38 like I am, like that our relationship is healthy in a way that they know that no matter what they do, I love and care about them and I'm proud of them. To me, that is more important than any achievement they can have on a field ever.
Absolutely. Well, there's so many teachable moments. I mean, that are so important for them as they're growing up. So, I think if you start with the end in mind, so if you work back, okay, and like you said, is this gonna what's this? Is this gonna matter 10 years from now? And then what does it mean to me when Johnny has a great game? What's that mean to me? It doesn't nothing wrong with feeling proud of your son or daughter and want to. I mean, bless them and enjoy. Absolutely, but I just mean me personally. Whether they do really well or succeed on the field or not, what is this saying about me? And so I think if those conversations come back to me going, well, I feel like I'm a little more important if they do well and people notice my kid, and then I think we're starting to get a little bit off on that because I think now it does apply the pressure to the kid, and now they become the subject of that, and they can't meet that burden. That's not their burden to bear. Right. So,
and that takes some emotional honesty that a lot of us,
and we all have
it's hard for us to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to blow it. Like all of a sudden we're going to react. Well, man, why do I care so much? I mean, it's your life. It's your your blood's out there playing it's opened themselves up to rejection or like I said, but it's just they're their own person. They've got to go through that. We got to support them. We got to encourage them. Nothing wrong with challenging them. There's so many teachable moments that we can glean from if we allow that to happen and not just the result or the final scoreboard is what's the main driving factor of it all, So
I had to do some work myself this past fall. We had a game on a Thursday night, so we moved our game from a Saturday to a Thursday. So kids have been at school all day, like totally different circumstances than what a normal game for us is.
Yeah.
And we had played this team before, and I knew we were better than them, and we came out and played like dog doo-doo. And my entire team wasn't playing the way that we had practiced, and I was just super frustrated.
Sure.
We ended up tying, I think it was. And again, at the end of the day, I don't care that it was a tie. I was frustrated that we had spent so much time trying to get these kids to learn something, and they weren't doing it. And I'm at home, and my wife noticed I was just in a bad mood. I was just it was weighing on me hard. My son didn't care. He got to go to his favorite restaurant afterwards. We went and got some chicken nuggets and some French fries or a hot dog, whatever it was. And so he had a great time with his friends. And I'm sitting there. He had gone to sleep. My wife had gone upstairs. And I'm sitting on the couch. I'm like, why the heck is U10 soccer bothering me this much? Yeah. And it was kind of I had to be really honest with myself, and it was because I'm selfishly, and I think it's okay to be selfish in this. I had put in the time to try to teach them things.
Yeah,
and they didn't do what we had worked on, and I was frustrated that they didn't do that. Okay, that's a valid feeling on my end.
Sure. But
then I also had to think, okay, they had 7 hours of school earlier that day. Normally we're playing at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning. All they've done is wake up, eat some pancakes, and come to the soccer field.
Sure.
So their attention spans were not there that night. So them not performing the way I knew they could and doing the thing was not a reflection on me,
Right.
was not a reflection on my coaching. It was, they were kids who were tired at the end of a long school day.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to feel like if my kid doesn't perform well on the field, that is a reflection of me as a parent. In reality, though, what's going on in their life?
Yeah.
They had a test, like even at the high school level, or they had a test they were up late last night studying for because ultimately their academics matter. And so their focus wasn't there as much tonight. Okay, that's frustrating because you've probably spent a lot of time practicing with them and helping them get there. But how do we handle that?
Yeah.
Like, it's okay for you to be frustrated. Like, feel what you need to feel.
Yep.
But we're the adult in the room. How do we handle that with our kids to let them know, hey, okay, let's learn from this. You had a test, you stayed up late studying for it because you didn't put the work in beforehand or whatever, and you didn't perform as well as you wanted to on the field. How can I support you so that the next time that happens, you perform to your standards?
Yeah.
And then you put it in their, like, they're the ones driving that ship at that point, but you're supporting them as opposed to, I've seen dads yell at kids on the side of the field because they didn't play well and the kid ends up walking to the car crying.
Yeah.
Which one's going to get you to the end game
Right.
that you're talking about better?
Yeah. I think that's well said. I mean, you can't, hide the elephant in the room. The better if again, depending on the age of this, but if you were up late studying and there's different factors, and because maybe you didn't prepare enough beforehand, like those are teachable moments. Like, hey, you didn't make the team. I mean, again, I know things can get political, but like, what's the deal? Like, what happened? I mean, and I think that's a hard thing to grasp. But it's the reality and the truth of it. We can't. I mean, I'm not everyone gets a trophy. I don't believe in that. I think that sets kids up. They know when there was.
You learn more from failure. Let's be honest.
And if we level that, then we're really robbing all of us, because again, there's learning how to handle winning with humility, learning how to handle defeat. I mean, all that stuff it all belongs. So to just kind of level the playing field on that isn't probably the most healthy. I think we're finding that out. Just for self-esteem purposes may not be the best route on that. I mean, but yeah, I mean, I think kids. Yeah, I think the teachable moments and the ingredients that is developing the whole person of them is really the win, in my opinion. Because you want them longevity. Why you want every sports to carry over into life, not quitting when it gets hard. In season, all that. I mean, we can go on and on about that. How important that is to develop the character inside of them to do hard things, and that's why sports are great, in my opinion. I mean, because they reveal and teach so much. They don't teach character; they reveal it. Like I said, they reveal my selfishness, my pride. They reveal things in me that I'm like, oh man, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to do that.
And for us as parents too, watching our kids, like it very much reveals that in ourselves as well.
100%, absolutely. And that's okay. Let's just talk about it and let's figure out what's a better route, because we all want what's best for our kids. We all, none of us, I don't know one parent that's, man, I just hope I'm a jerk parent, and that they look back on this experience and be like, man, I hope they hate me. No one's doing that. We're just, we got some arrows sometimes that just get misdirected, and we're learning how to figure it out. I mean,
and the healthy part is once we realize we're doing it.
Yeah.
Trying to learn from it and correct it, because we're all going to do it. Yep. Like, none of us are going to be the perfect parent on the sideline.
Absolutely.
Our insecurities are going to come out because we're human.
100%.
But the way we become a healthy sports parent is by trying to do the work in between games once we realize stuff happens, so that we can understand why it happened and try to correct it moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And allowing that feedback. I mean, from what I get to do now, I mean, I'll ask those questions because, hey, safe place here. Parents aren't here. Do you guys like when they're coaching you from the stands? And I'm not talking about the, hey, throw it hard here. Like, I mean the consistent, right? Where, I mean, I've yet to find a kid that's just super pumped about it. They say no because they don't. It doesn't. Again, now if you're the coach on the team, that's a little different, right? But to have many competing voices for their attention while also trying to do a hard task in front of them, just gets them confused, and their performance meter is not going to be in the flow zone, if you will. So, yeah.
All right, Brett, we could keep this conversation going because I'm having a ton of fun, but we do have to respect people's time here. So last question for you before we leave. If you could encourage the parents listening to this with one thing as they go out this week with their kids, what would that encouragement be to them?
Gosh, I mean, I feel like in a nutshell, what we've kind of talked about, I mean, just run with your kids where they are. And what I mean by that is be their biggest fan and be their biggest support system. And that doesn't mean that you're just going to give them only the fluff all the time. It just means that that you only get this time. You don't get this time back. And whatever season, whatever sport they're in, whatever age they're in, like we kind of touched on that, like value the things that do matter in regards to, hey, if God's given you ability or a gift to go out and play, or a healthy body to go out and do it, then let's give our best effort in that. Let's learn to be a great teammate, and let's really have a blast doing what we're doing. And then I just want to watch from the sidelines, knowing, hey, you've got my ultimate support. Go get them and have some fun, And that's kind of a long-winded answer of that because it's hard. I just to remove us out of it. And how do we as adults teach, or what are we looking for to teach and impart to them versus just based on their performance? So
awesome. Brett, thanks so much for being with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, Jonathan.
That's it for today. Again, if you like the show or want to help us out, it would be a huge help to leave a rating and review wherever you listen. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, give us a small review. That goes a really long way. If you're listening on Apple or watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that like button and that subscribe button. If this episode helped you, share it with a parent friend of yours so that they can be helped as well. As always, though, we want you to have a great time this week at practice, at your games, wherever you might be with your kids so that you can have an incredible relationship with them. Have a great week, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.